welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. If you want to support my daily Eternal Magic offerings while getting amazing perks like the BoshNRoll Discord community, have me play your deck on the channel, or listen sideboard guides before tournaments, check out the Patreon or YouTube membership program. This channel is possible because of these amazing sponsors. Check them out, all their links are in the video description. As always, thanks for being here. Let's go play some Magic. Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm playing Legacy at the request of Patreon subscriber Jealous Angel. This is Jeskai Control. This deck comes to me with the request to give my thoughts about it, but play it as is without making changes the first time around. This deck seems well enough constructed that I can respect that request. Sometimes decks I get are not in a spot where I can accept that, but this one's fine. My immediate thoughts before I play it, and we'll loop around at the end before we make any changes. I like trying to make Narset Days Undoing work in this format. Like, that is actually pretty cool. It's something we haven't seen in a while. And one of my criticisms of Control in recent years is that they just kind of dirtle. A lot of lists have like 1/4 Aerolingus in the 60 that actually wins the game, and they're just trying to get complete control and then dig for this when it's convenient. I like having another button that wins the game. And I like that that button is supported by permanents that are not inherently embarrassing, especially in a format dominated by Tamiyo, a card that this deck is playing in high numbers. Something like Narset or Hullbreacher to both stop Tamiyo from flipping and make her ultimate something that your opponent can't do. That's pretty important because a lot of control games and tempo games, let's be serious, come down to Tamiyo flipping and then just plussing to ultimate. Some things I want to keep an eye on is back to basics. I think this is a sideboard card. Even in decks that can support it, I would feel better if both copies. There is one in the main, one in the board. I like the restraint of only playing one, and you can pitch it to force or brainstorm it away or whatever when it's not good. And you'll never have a second copy gumming up the works. Right now, though, across the top spread of meta decks, you don't want back to basics against any of them. You have to get down into like Eldrazi aggro before you find a deck like lands. There's a couple out there that you would want this, and it is an important tool in those matchups, but there's so many matchups where you don't want it. I'd be more comfortable with this in the sideboard to start. And what you have to do to support back to basics, like Basic Mountain is not a good card. It casts only 4th Aerolingus in this deck that also has blue and white mana costs it's trying to hit across the 75. Basic Mountain is disastrous. There's also Mystic Sanctuary in the deck that is kind of a pull when we have a bunch of lands that don't trigger it, that we are also incentivized to fetch early because of how the deck's constructed. I'm a little worried about the back to basics and what we're doing to support it. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the league. Also, this one of Triumph of St. Traft. Freudian slip. Triumph of St. Cath. This is either brilliant and 1 is exactly the right number, or it's just a random animal in a deck that's not about doing that at all, and it's pointless. Like, if you miracle this thing on turn 3 versus Red Stompy, you're going to be so glad you have access to it. But if you have it in your hand ever, you're going to be pretty bummed. If you draw it versus, like, Reanimator, who cares? This thing is smaller than Barrowgoyf. Like, the time where Triumph of St. Catherine was even worth exploring was in a pre-Barrowgoyf world. I got my eye on Triumph. So Mana and Triumph are kind of my notes, but I will play it as is per the request, and I'll focus on being a powerful Tamiyo, Hullbreacher, Days Undoing combo deck with some control elements. Let's get into it. There's a new game store in California's Bay Area. Merlion Games is a premium LGS with a focus on stocking and supporting Eternal formats. They have the best buy prices in the area and offer a 10% bump on trade credit. They run weekly Modern, Legacy, and Pauper with larger monthly events for Legacy, Pauper, Vintage, CEDH, and Canadian Highlander. If you're around the Bay Area and need a place to play, check out Merlion Games in San Carlos, California. I'm on the play in round 1. I am going to keep this hand on the strength of Tamiyo, though the mana's already tough, and this 4th Aerolingus and Days Undoing are 2 blanks. And now, like, we're in a spot where, do I fetch Tundra? Or do I fetch Basic Island to play around Wasteland, do I just play Mystic Sanctuary and try to set up Tamiyo plus Brainstorm next turn all at once? And I'm better against Wasteland because if Mystic Sanctuary goes, it's fine. I think I just have to fetch Tundra here and hope that they don't want to play from behind a Tamiyo, even if they do have Wasteland. Blue to Delta. No surprise there. The most popular open. Watery Grave's a little surprising, though. Okay, I wonder if this is a budget take or if they are actually doing Death Shadow stuff. Force of Will is a huge rip. Attack with Tamiyo. And I'm going to Brainstorm. I could still hit a white source this turn. I can't play around Daze anyway because Mystic Sanctuary comes in tapped. They do have the Daze. I could just hit my land drop here and keep my spells in my hand. I actually think that's fine. But now I'm up 2 lands on them and I have the first Tamiyo. It's a little awkward that I might have to force them if they play a Brainstorm here. Yikes. All right. It is also worth noting that Tamiyo does not flip if you Daze Undoing because the turn ends with her trigger on the stack. All right, not a bad hit. I think if they could have fought over the Brainstorm, like maybe they don't spend Force of Will on that, but they probably do spend Daze. Cool. I'm going to play around Orcish Bowmaster right now. And I have 2 blue sources. I could get white. Just make sure they can't waste me off that. I'm not going to go for the red this early. Like, I'm not going to 4th Aerlingus for 1 against an opponent who might have Orcish Bowmaster in their deck. The second Brainstorm. This one's a lot worse because it doesn't have Tamiyo attached to it. Multiple Watery Graves. I think this is some sort of Death Shadow something or other. A Lingus I can't cast, or a Supreme Verdict that isn't a problem yet. Supreme Verdict is the choice. I can guarantee flipping Tamiyo this turn. Or I could try to ponder hit a red source before combat. I'd rather chill. We're pretty sure we know what they're about. They just prioritized taking a sweeper over a win con. Like, I think I have to react to them first. Okay. I like this stuff. I even like the Teferi that's hiding underneath everything here. This flips Tamiyo unless they have Snuff Out, which they might have. Didn't have it. And I actually want to leave Teferi on top of the deck because we're pretty sure they're casting creatures next turn. There's a Plow in my graveyard that Tamiyo can get, or I could get back Supreme Verdict. Old Schmirktide. They might have to waste Tundra just to keep me off Supreme Verdict here. Yep. Fair enough. You know who's still really sick here? Teferi. Fetch. I don't want to be open to Wasteland, but I do also want to cast my spells this game, which is, you know, the problem with these basic heavy mana bases. All right, I'll get Volcanic Island. I'm going to swing for the fences with Teferi. They did have a force. That means I will buy back Swords to Plowshares now, and they can attack me once, then we'll figure it out. That force pitched Brazen Borrower. Face or Tamiyo? All right, yeah, they still got to fight Tamiyo, who's already drawn 3 extra cards with a clue still chilling. If they play Death Shadow, it dies to Swords to Plowshares alongside Murktide Regent. We're in pretty good shape here. Plow. Crack a clue or play Tamiyo. I think it's Tamiyo. So all the work they did with those Watery Graves and Thoughtseizes is undone now, and the card Death Shadow itself is not a good draw. This could just be budget Dimir tempo, like someone who doesn't own Underground Seas and seeing what their options are for Eternal Weekend. But when I play on Magic Online, I don't default to that sort of thought. I assume that dual lands, I think, cost similarly, maybe cheaper even than fetch lands. Well, Hull Breacher. That one's pretty decent versus Tamiyo. So is Narset. I think I'm going to go for Narset first. She's harder to kill. And if they have to... There's Back to Basics, which I have not set up a game around because I couldn't. Like, if they play around Narset by just banking a clue, passing, cracking the clue on my turn, then Hull Breacher gets them there. If they have Kaito, they could kill Narset here. Fatal Push is fine. Right, clues in the bank. And a fresh Murktide, who is 6/6. It's a lot of removal in my deck. Let's find some of it. Narset, multiple plows available. I'm going to Brainstorm first. All right, we found a land drop. That's one of the things I was looking for here. Put back 4th Aerlingus and Ponder. Plow this Murktide while they can't force. Only 1 card in hand. It's been a long time since Narset was an important part of Legacy, and it feels good to have her. We missed you. And they don't want to play anymore. Cool. We got the tap out. Okay, so Dimir Tempo, potentially Death Shadow, maybe just on a budget. I like Wrath of the Skies. I don't like Back to Basics. I don't like Force of Negation. Even though they're a deck that doesn't play a lot of basics, if any, they can still play the game on 1 or 2 mana and use days to reset their lands. Like, it's not a great tool when your opponent is built to play on low resources. Force of Will, pretty mid. Bunch of hits for Tamiyo and Murktide, which are the threats we've seen. Yeah, I think that's it. I could go to 0 forces and play something like Dak. Dak combos with the Narsets and Hull Breachers. This is a way, if you target them with the draw 2, discard 2, when you have a draw restriction in play, they either draw 1, discard 2, and eventually run out of cards if it's Narset, or they draw 0, discard 2, and you get 2 treasures if it's Hull Breacher. That's more of a lock for control decks, though. I don't think I'm going to Meddling Mage, naming Murktide Regent. Yeah, this looks like the plan. I didn't see any Reanimator adjacent stuff to want the Surgicals and Cages. Alright, we gotta do a count here. There are 19 lands in my deck, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder. That's 27 draws that aren't bad. I will keep. Obviously, this hand has its risks, but I get 2 looks at almost exactly half my deck. Right, that one wasn't it. Opponent Shocked and Watery Grave did nothing with the mana. This is where they Thoughtseize me, see no second land, and then I hit my next 3 land drops in a row. Alright, step 1 is complete. There's this Triumph of St. Catherine gumming up the works, and a Days Undoing. So Triumph, Days Undoing, and Fourth Aerolingus are all cards you just don't want in a hand. Like, you want to dig into those later. Yep. Well, missing the land stinks, but not only missing the land, but drawing the 3rd clunker. This game is not over, by the way. Like, this is something that a lot of people like to criticize in the comments on my videos. Like, I'm tolerant to keeping hands like this one. And guess what? Nothing happened. My opponent has hit a land drop. And now if I hit my land drop this turn, still missing, it's fine. But if we hit land drops like ever, Swords to Plowshares undoes a lot. We saw last game them investing a bunch of spells and interaction into a Murktide, then I just plow it and it's gone. And several turns worth of work undone by a single card. And the further they get ahead here, the worse it gets. But I have 3 1-mana answers to this card in my hand. And I have 5 draw steps to find them. See, what were you even worried about? Destroy target blue permanent. Obviously, soft to Wasteland, but here we are. They've got 4 lands, 5 cards in hand. I've got 2 lands, 6 cards in hand. Wasteland, okay. But if they could have applied pressure, they would have done it before turn 4. So what am I worried about? There's time to figure this out. Tamiyo's in play. They untap. They didn't push it in the end step or anything. All right, Snuff Out. This unlocks Death Shadow. Remember when I called out Snuff Out game 1? Right, opponent's got 5 lands in play. That telegraphs hardcast Force of Will. And if they're not adding to the board, that means their hand must be reactive spells. There's a Shadow. It's 3/3. It can become 6/6 just on the board. Swords to Plowshares, really good against Death Shadow. Another island. Gotta love this basic land mana base. It has pros and cons. Obviously, I'm not getting wastelanded here, but also I'm not casting my spells. I realistically have 1 comfortable draw step to hit a white source, and then I have 1 uncomfortable draw step to hit a white source. I'm at 14. Barrogoyf. White mana? Oh my god. Well, Hull Breacher can block. I got that going for me. But I am running into Days. Well, they knew I had this. There's no way they don't have an answer. Because if I get a treasure here and unlock Plow, they are cooked. Alright, yep. Good job. They had the Force of Will ready. They're going to put me to 2 and get a Barrogoyf trigger. Barrogoyf makes Death Shadow smaller. That's just good deck building. Missed on a creature entirely. If I draw a Plains right now and Plow Barrogoyf, I'm actually completely stable. All right, now I'm completely dead. I can't beat both of these things. I'd have to brainstorm into... Yeah, all right. If one of these basic islands I drew was a plains, we win that game easily. Even like if all the exact same things happen, but it's just like plains or flooded strand or prismatic vista instead of the third basic island, that game is a joke in my favor. That's okay. We took a risk, ran a little bad, but I think the being able to separate the result of the game from what was actually in motion there, which is like I had a fistful of removal and they took a million years to present a threat. Fourth Aerolingus once again in my opening hand. This hand comes preloaded with Ponder, which was one of my live draws last time. All right, basic plains, accessible. And I played a lot of blue-white basic land-centric decks with back to basics and without. And getting that first plains versus creature decks like this is so important. It's just such a relief when that basic plains rolls off and you're like, okay, now I can cast my removal spells this game. Ponder. I will bank the plow. In my hand, there's a volcanic island on top, which I'm holding Fourth Aerolingus, and I do kind of want to hit a land drop or two. It depends on if they make me plow anything right now, but if their threats are cards like Murktide, Barrowgoyf, and Death Shadow, those I'll take a while to heat up. Opponent shuffled that Ponder. I'm going to play Basic Island, and I'm not going to cast spells into Daze. That's just a way that this can come off the rails for me. Zept in a Watery Grave in the end step. It's possible I'm supposed to fetch in response to their fetch there, just because Stifle, it's not a card I've seen, but it is a card that would be really bad for me. Right, and now we can test their hand multiple times. Basic Plains, Swords to Plowshares, untap, play Narset around Daze. I'm going to leave Volcanic Island up. It casts the Brainstorm if I want it, and if I hit Blue Blast, Red Blast, you know, whatever blast I have, I can play that too. All right, we got some hooks in. I have a bunch of removal. I have an actual threat in my hand. They didn't play Wasteland. They played Blue to Delta. Tamiyo. Card's pretty bad against Narset. There's the Red Blast. It was one card too low to fight that Tamiyo on their turn. All right, Narset, there's one more Daze Undoing. Or was there two? I think it pitched the last game. Well, there's Daze Undoing. I can cast an uncounterable Daze Undoing. Or it can be countered, but I have 2 layers. That's what I meant by that. All right, I mean, shove. And we win. Cool. Yeah, the games where we just had mana under us were great. And the game where I didn't have mana was not great, but would have been great with a single white source at any point. Also, these matchups are just great. A deck like Death Shadow, where the threats take a while to build up, like you're not getting pressured by Dragon's Rage Channeler on turn 1. They have to get their life below 12, or they have to get their graveyard full of stuff. Anyone who gives me time to set up when I'm a Jeskai control deck or Blue-White X control deck, I appreciate that time to set up. On to the next round. The BoshNRoll channel is brought to you by Tales of Adventure. TOAMagic.com has almost 100,000 unique cards in stock. They offer free track shipping on every order, plus next day or 2-day options when you have an event coming up fast. They offer on-site pickup at major Magic events throughout the US, so you're never scrambling before your tournament. Stop by their booth to buy, sell, or trade at upcoming regional championships, Magic Con, Spotlight Series, and more. I love their selection of individually scanned high-end cards that show you exactly what you're buying. And the best part is saving 5% on every order with promo code BOSH. From Ancestral Recall to Zombie Master, get what you need quickly and in one place at TOAMagic.com. Eternal lives here. I'm on the draw for round 2. I'm going to keep my hand. I have Force of Will and Tamiyo and Brainstorm. Those are all the cards. Once again, Fourth Aerolingus. It's like I'm playing 7 of them. How often this is in my opening hand. There's really only one. Ancient Tomb. Chalice of the Void. I don't want to play against this card. I'm going to pitch Lorien Revealed. Lorien Revealed is good versus Blood Moon, but we don't know that my opponent has Blood Moon. This could be Eldrazi. We have stumbled into a matchup where Back to Basics is really good. Drawing this Basic Island's interesting, because I could just play the Basic Island. I could fetch Basic Plains and just get like way ahead of Blood Moon. I want Tamiyo to be in play, though. I think I'm going to fetch Basic Island off of Vista, so then I'll have 2 islands to play on if they Blood Moon me next turn. And if they Blood Moon me down the road, I'll have red for 4th Aerlingus anyway. Yeah, taking the turn off to develop basic planes or not is an interesting choice. Cavern, okay. This is more likely... Okay, it is Eldrazi. Great. Then they're not a Blood Moon deck. They are a Wasteland deck, though. Yeah, Kozilek's Command. That kills Tamiyo. And they scried to the bottom and drew 1 card. Narset, alright. Brainstorm. Let's see what's going on around here. Force of Negation. Basic Mountain. Force of Negation seems really bad. I think I'm going to put back Force and Island. Or Force Mountain. No, it has to be Force Island if I want a 4th Aerlingus next turn, which I might. Depends on what they do. If they like play out a Chalice of the Void or something, Lingus for 1 could steal this game. I am in some trouble though. I might have to just combo them out. Either Back to Basics or Days Undoing are what I'm looking for here. It is a Chalice. I really don't want Brainstorm in my hand if they're going for Chalice. But I also don't want to fetch Tundra when they could waste me and take me off 4th Aerlingus. I think I just have to accept that this Brainstorm's in my hand. Oh, we're that kind. Interesting. Okay, I am going to draw the island that's on top of my deck, because I will want that eventually. Plains, Lingus for 1. Well, let's get the Monarch and try to ride it into the sunset here. We have miraculously queued into one of the matchups where Back to Basics is essential for success. I don't think there are aggressive Eldrazi decks that are playing Cloud Post. 2 Cloud Posts, so this is 5 mana right now. Oh no. Red Eldrazi creature, spell mana. Well, what do I know? Alright, so this is some sort of hybrid, which is terrifying. Haste creatures are really bad when I'm trying to introduce the Monarch. Okay, Prismatic Ending is a great draw for me. Flipping that Triumph of St. Catherine would be great for me. Right, I'm going to attack with my Knight, get the Monarch back. Narset is win-win here, because either they attack Narset and they don't take the Monarch at all, banking it Back to Basics, by the way, or they attack me and they get the Monarch, but they can't play, or they can't draw extra cards. Them seeing the Back to Basics stinks, it means they could build a plan around it rather than tapping out for some shit and then losing. But if they make a plan around Back to Basics and Narset flips Days Undoing, I might be able to steal this back. And they just have a bigger creature than me. They're winning the damage race. That's not great for a Back to Basics game. They're playing something huge here. Devourer of Destiny. Okay, that's going to exile Narset. They're going to bash me for 1 trillion. They can attack me for 8 here and defend the Monarch, or attack me for 11 and not worry about the Monarch. Okay, they are protecting the Monarch, and they have a big enough trample creature that I just lose next turn. So I need Supreme Verdict, and even that's not good enough. All right, we're dead. Yeah, those matchups are just really bad. In this case, I am hyped that I have access to Back to Basics. Consign to Memory. Wrath of the Skies clears out their spawns and chalices, but otherwise it's not that good. Like, I don't have enough mana to kill their creatures. Force of Negation, kind of whatever. It's another defense against Chalice, but I don't have to be that worried about Chalice. Oh, I have 2 of these. I thought I had 1. No wonder it's showing up more often than I thought it was. Okay. Oh, there's a display bug on Magic Online. That's why I thought there was only 1. Oh, no, there's not. I'm looking at... I don't know why I thought there was only 1. Apologies, Jealous Angel. There probably should only be 1. That's another note. Okay. Back to the business at hand. It is important to jam my game-ending 3-drops against them. That's the Back to Basics and the Days Undoing. Teferi can clear Chalice for a turn. Hull Breacher helps my combo, but doesn't really do anything against them. Supreme Verdict is great. I think I am shaving a 4th Aerlingus. And maybe these Wrath of the Skies there's no room for. Yeah, I don't think that's the game that I am here to play. On the play, I have some good cards for the matchup. I will keep. This Lorien Revealed can get basic island if I get Wastelanded. Getting Tamiyo going is pretty nice. Cavern on Eldrazi. Lotus Petal. This has to be Chalice. Nothing else makes a lot of sense here. Resolves. Once again, this is where the chat gets mad at me. But guess what? My deck's got a bunch of answers to Chalice in it. I don't apologize. I have Ugin. They can cast a 3-drop. If it's Glaring Fleshraker, I can counter it because they can't use Cavern mana. Look at this. Look at this. I force that. And we're out from under Chalice of the Void. Attack with Tamiyo. Get rid of Chalice. And pass. Holding up. Supreme Verdict available next turn. We do have to lock them out here. We have to Daze Undoing them or find a Back to Basics, or they will beat me with what's left. Ooh, Anti-Causal Vestige. This one's sweet. When this leaves the battlefield, draw a card, then you can put a permanent card with mana value less than equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield tapped. They can put a 3-drop in this end step. I'm going to cycle Lorien Revealed, just in case. And I guess I want Island because my plan at some point is Back to Basics. Cloud Post, good turn for Back to Basics. Force of Will's not that. I'll probably just flip Tamiyo this turn and try to figure things out. Flip, flip. 2 Brainstorms in my hand. I've got 6 mana. They could play this Anti-Causal Vestige out of Warp, and then that's actually in play. Now they have 8 mana. Or it's actually could be 10. If they cast 2 Eldrazi, Ayavugan counts twice. Now, warping this ahead of schedule with Ayavugan is not something I'd consider. That's really cool. Huh. Okay. Alright. For some reason, I thought for a second they didn't use Cavern mana, but they did. It would be super weird if they didn't. Alright, I'm going to do some digging here. See what I can come up with. A Daze Undoing. Alright, we've got a plan. This means Ponder and Brainstorm go back. I think I grab Force of Will from the graveyard. I just have to protect Hullbreacher through the next couple turns. And Kozilek's Command is the card I'm worried about there. That one, Cavern doesn't protect. Right, me or Tamiyo, where are you going? All right, spend an effort on Tamiyo's great. She already drew, what, 4 cards this game? I thought Not Seer is the one I don't want to see. Warped in another Vestige, okay. I'm going to fetch a basic Island and let them warp and see what that does. Oh, that has draw a card on it. I should have Hull Breach that. Yeah, new card got me. I could have just had a treasure and they would have 1 less card in hand. That was actually pretty huge. Yeah, draw a card. Okay. Yep. Understood. They've got 2 cards in hand and I can fight over 2 Kozilek's Commands if I have to. Or dismember any such thing. There's not an Eldrazi I'm specifically worried about here. Kozilek's Command, Force, Pitching, Brainstorm. I still have hopes for the Supreme Verdict one day. Ponder. Alright, do I want to try to find Swords to Plowshares off Ponder and deal with this first? Or do I just want to Daze Undoing and see what my draw 7 begets? Might as well Ponder. I'm going to have mana to do everything I want to do. Found a Plow. Right, don't shuffle. Attack with Hullbreacher. The Vestige is not optional. They have to draw a card here, which gives me a treasure, and then they can put something into play if they have anything. Lotus Petals in play. Daze Undoing. I've got 7. They do have the other Vestige on Warp over there, which is something to be aware of. But it's a lot worse if they can't draw cards. And I am set up here. They did not Vestige. They might be setting up an Ayavugan. I'm going to end step Hullbreacher. Got to win the game somehow. I'll play Teferi and attack. Then, how do I want to cast Back to Basics? Probably fetch a Plains. 1, 2, 3. Back to Basics. Probably plus Teferi and then pass. It would cost them 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It's a bunch of lands to get the Ayavugan activated. They have to tutor something that can answer Back to Basics, so it's probably like the Escape Battle Mage. That does it. Yep, okay. And can't counter that. So they can fight through the Back to Basics, but it costs them this whole turn of doing stuff to get to that point. That exiles my artifact. Or enchantment. Battle Mage is down. I can Prismatic end that in the end step, keep the damage flowing. I'm going to Teferi on nothing. Look for some action here. And the other Back to Basics, a 4th Aerolingus. Something to close the game out. The other Daze Undoing. Plow, mediocre. Plow matters eventually. Their deck is full of creatures. Tamiyo, I have Hardcast Force available if they go for something like All is Dust. Anti-Causal Vestige is just a 7/5, and they do have that still in the Warp Bank. I don't think I'm ahead in this game right now. I will just say that. Despite all the good things that have happened, back to basics, successful days undoing, 7 treasures, fresh hand, still don't think I'm winning. A tutored Devourer of Destiny. Is this more worried about Tamiyo, one of the Hull Breachers? I don't think they care about Teferi. Tamiyo is the problem. I can plow that thing if I need to. I'd prefer not to. Right, Narset, find me something here. Mountain, Narset, Big Digs, Force of Will, Ponder. There's that Triumph of St. Catherine. That might be good in some other universe. Ponder, 3 Brainstorms. Do I want these? I guess so. I've already played my land. If I plow this Devourer, the damage washes out. Like, it's gone, and... Oh, wait, did I shuffle? Oh, I accidentally shuffled and drew Consigned in Memory. Good job, me. I didn't do that on purpose, but it was the correct card to find. Alright, now attacking washes out the damage, and I can Hardcast Force and play Consign, or I can Consign, countering some important trigger, get another turn with Teferi and Narset around. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents. We're activating Ayavugan again. It's going to be an endless stream of Devourer of Destinies. They are dead if they go for Devourer of Destiny. I can counter the Exile trigger, bounce the Devourer, attack for 6. Linebreaker. Okay. They're going to try to attack me here. I can't counter that. They're out of Cavern of Souls. If they try to double Eldrazi and have both an attacker and a blocker available, I can fend that off. I have exactly enough mana. Battle Mage, jeez. Okay. This is actually fine. They wanted to exile my treasure token. That's... Oh, wait. I actually need the Consign to get through combat. But if they attack me, they lose. No, this is fine. I'm just going to use this to consign the Battle Mage itself. And they can go ahead and give their Linebreaker combat, or haste. If they attack Teferi, they're exposed. If they don't attack Teferi, Teferi bounces. Okay. By the skin of our ass, snuck that one through. To do both of the things my deck's good at doing to make it happen. I think this is still the configuration that makes the most sense. Like, I could turn a Tamiyo into a 4th Aerlingus on the draw, because they're more likely to have Chalice when it matters. But Tamiyo's still just really good at being Tamiyo. I could turn a Teferi into a 4th Aerlingus, but Teferi is one of my answers to Chalice. It helps me lock down the combo. Yeah, same thing. Let's go. All right, keep. I got access to a bunch of basic lands. Counterspell. My good cards. Basic Island Tamiyo. And I drew Brainstorm. So now we're threatening a real thing. The Waste. The basic Waste. My nemesis. Kozilek's Command. I think I actually do want to have this fight. Pitching Hull Breacher. Having the Brainstorm, getting Tamiyo into party mode. Finding back to basics. Nice. Brainstorm. Oh, there's that Triumph. Finally doing something. Okay, I'm going to put back... The Triumph actually isn't even doing anything here because I want to play back to basics next turn, not Triumph of St. Catherine. I guess I'll put back Triumph and Scalding Tarn. I can buy back Brainstorm and set Triumph up again later. Tamiyo's my blue card for Forest. Back to basics is my win con. I can get one of each basic, or I could ignore Mountains for a while and just get Island Plains. Cloud Post arrives locked down. Lotus Petal. All right. Big moves. Thought not Seer. I think not Seer. Scalding Tarn. Fetch Plains. Yeah, I'm going to get Island. I'm not going to mess with the Mountain for a while. Back to basics. Tamiyo. Oh, they just don't even want to play. All right. They were not in a position to fight this one, I guess. Cool. The back to basics coming in clutch in a matchup. I mentioned in the deck tech that there are like 2 matchups in the whole format where you want this, and there's probably 3, honestly. So it's like the multicolor Beanstalk decks, Eldrazi Cloud Post stuff, and lands, and we did happen to queue into one. Boom.
On to the next round.
This video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, the easiest way to build Magic decks online. Moxfield supports over 30 formats, including Legacy and everything else you'll see on this channel. There's multiple customizations so you can interact with your deck how you want. Views such as text, grid, or stacks, and groupings like type, subtype, color, color identity, even artist. The site offers light mode, dark mode, and so much more. However you want to see your deck, Moxfield can provide it for you. Follow my Moxfield to keep up with the channel and what I'm playing in paper. I'll see you there.
I'm on the draw for round 3. Hand is good. I'll keep it. Got good mana. I can see more cards. I can survive a force check. Undercity Sewers pass, kept the card. I'm going to fetch a basic island here and cast Ponder. Ugh. I don't need another Hull Breacher. I don't hate Narset. I do want to find my land, though. Okay, I will keep this Ponder and trust these 2 Brainstorms to come up with the 3rd land to get the rest of the hand moving. Brainstorm. I'm not going to force a negation that, though I suspect these force negations will not be very good, and I'll probably be shuffling them away soon with my Brainstorm. Alright, they did that backwards, luckily for me. They probably either didn't have the Tamiyo or didn't have the land when they cast that Brainstorm. I probably would force pitching force on the Brainstorm if they had Tamiyo first. Alright, Brainstorm before Bowmaster is the thing I have to worry about. Yikes. Okay. I don't think I want 2 force of negations. And here's a really awkward spot for back to basics, because I want a Plains. I also want to cast Tamiyo this turn. Yeah, I think I'm going to get an island and cast Tamiyo. I'm holding on to this back to basics. There are always cheese spots where even if it's not fundamentally good for a matchup, like I'm going to board it out. But if I can catch them shields down, it could be worse, you know? Their Tamiyo is going to flip this turn. But my plan to deal with Tamiyo is not to actually deal with Tamiyo. I have Hull Breacher and Narset in my hand, which makes Tamiyo into garbage. The clue flips the girl. I'm drawing wild. A land would be great. Just immediately unlock this stuff I'm trying to do. Okay. I could go for Narset now, or I could Hull Breach first. I could also just Brainstorm and flip my Tamiyo. I'd attack you. Tamiyo gets smaller. It's so little. I think if I had drawn a white, I would have just gone for Teferi. But because I didn't, I'm going to take a little time to sculpt here. B-Storm. Lingus. That's a later problem. Back to basics. It's getting less and less likely that that card's going to be any good. Alright, yeah, I kind of feel like I need my mana. Plus Tamiyo. And I need this Ponder to resolve, so I'm going to play Volcanic Island. I don't want my Ponder to get dazed. Tundra is okay, but I don't like the cards behind it. Alright, I'll put the Tundra in my hand, and we'll try to navigate this. Tamiyo goes +6, +8, then down, which means I have 3 turns to resolve Narset or Hull Breacher. +6. I really wish this was Force of Will, and not of Negation. A Brainstorm. A Wasteland. We don't like that. Never like those. I'll float blue. Thoughtseize as well. Ugh. Alright, it happens. It's not worth forcing, is the problem. I would have to pitch one of the cards that they would Thoughtseize, then I'm just down 2 cards. And Thoughtseize is really good. Best card in the format right now. Took the Hull Breacher. That means that's the one that I could defend with Force of Negation. That's why they prioritized that one. Okay, this back to basics has another, so this is multiple turns in a row where my opponent's been tapped out with back to basics in my hand that I could cast, and it's been wrong to do it. That's why I'm so low on this card. All right, Teferi, just ram this into whatever counterspell they have. Daze, just the worst counterspell, and they get to Ultimate Tamiyo a whole turn before me. I guess I'm just plussing though. If they have another Wasteland, I don't think this game's winnable. Replayed Underground Sea. Tamiyo's up to 8. I know I'm drawing 4th Aerolingus, a card that I do not want. Murktide Regent has to be fine, I guess, even though it's not fine. Now I'm just checkmated. If this Force of Negation was of Will, I think this game would be fine, but instead I'm definitely going to lose it. Or if my top card of the deck was a land, like one more land this game or one less wasteland, I think we have a choice or a chance. But instead we don't. And I can't beat a Tamiyo Ultimate. It's just, it can't be done. What are my choices here? I guess I could go back to basics, but then they just draw their lands. All right, I guess I play Narset here. Yeah, counterspell anyway. All right, unwinnable game. Yep, and that was a perfect showcase of why back to basics is not good, even against some decks that don't play a lot of basics. It was also a showcase of why Tamiyo is broken and why Force of Negation is bad. And you need Force of Negation against some of the decks. Like you are setting up a combo of your own. Force of Negation makes some structural sense here. It's just not actually a good card in the matchups where it's not a good card, which is about half of them, including the best one. I don't think I want to deck this opponent. We didn't actually see enough to know if they're Reanimator or Tempo. Like we didn't see a single card that would give that away, which could be a huge strategic advantage for them. Like there might just be some Surgicals and Cages in my sideboard that should be in the main, but I can't afford to bring them in. Right, and one Lingus for one Wrath. Or I did that backwards. This way. I think this makes sense. Keep. Island Ponder Keep. This is the deck that invented that saying, and this is why. Because a lot of your hands look like this. Basic Island, Cast Ponder, just looking for lands. Not that one, really, but I will not say no to a land. They've got a Tamiyo. I have a Prismatic Ending on top of my deck that can deal with that in front or back mode if I find white mana to cast it. I am going to play around Daze because it's very important that I find my mana here. This is a shuffle. Daze Undoing Supreme Verdict Ponder. Shuffle. Now I got two Brainstorms to try to figure it out with. And a draw step. And this is the cost of doing business with this many basic lands in your deck. Once you get your mana, it's basically indestructible, but getting your mana could be a problem. All right, I'm going to jam Brainstorm into Orcish Bowmaster here, but I don't have another play. All right, cool. We got away with it. They didn't master our Orc Bow, or whatever. It's a lot of Narsets, kind of Narset flooded. I'm going to put two of them back. Or I'll go Narset Hull Breacher, I think. Give myself some options. And I'm not going to fire Prismatic Ending into potential Brainstorm here. I'll wait a turn and then maybe do two things next turn. Blue token. Tamiyo doing her thing. Afraid to kill it because Brainstorm might be in their hand. It's burying me on the front. I'd almost prefer them just to aggressively flip it here so I can Prismatic Ending it and be done. And of course they could just Entomb Reanimate. Thoughtseize, yep. Have a look. I hope they're worried about Narset, but Prismatic Ending is right in front of them. Okay, they did take a Narset, a card that I have three of. Ponder. Tamiyo's going in. I'm drawing Hull Breacher here. I might just play Narset first. And this plays around Daze, and it's just a good card to have in play. Narset finds backup Narset or Teferi. We love a Teferi. Trying to set up combos here, let's go. Undercity Sewer. I still don't know what deck I'm playing against. Oh. We're going to see a shame concession. They forgot how Narset works. Shame scoop, shame scoop. The children don't know. Or what if this was just like a genius maneuver to put an Archon on top of their deck and then they surveil away? Okay, no, they just put two cards from their hand on top of the deck for no gain, and now it's my turn. We love that. Okay. Narset could get Orcish Bowmastered here, so I'm going to lead on Teferi before I do anything with Narset. Just flush out the pipes here. Force of Will. Pitching Brazen Borrower. Okay. Alright, Narset, keep digging. Brainstorm, Ponder, Fresh Narset. I'll take the Fresh Narset. If they do find an answer, I would like it replaced immediately. Alright, this clue does work, because it's my turn. They get to draw one card per turn, mine and theirs. So they've currently undone their Brainstorm from last turn. They have those cards back in their hand. I think it's a safe bet that they do not have Orcish Bowmaster, or it would have happened already. Ooh, alright. They're cracking a clue right now. And I'm going to try to just twist the knife. Okay, cool. S6, anti-draw effects are one way to counter a Tamiyo, even if they cost 3. On the draw, does anything change? I don't think so, it's just harder. And again, I still don't know what deck I'm playing against. Alright, I'm going to hit submit and hope that I don't die to a quick reanimate in game 3. Alright, Plow and Prismatic Ending, both good here. Great basic land mana base. The 1 of 4th Aerolingus, again, just here. Like it or not, it's in the opening grip. Have fun with that. Thoughtseize, right off the bat. I would take Ponder out of this hand, all things being equal. Like, I assume Ponder's going to go, but if they do have some threats they got to resolve, they might work through the removal. Right, Ponder confirmed gone. Entomb Reanimate. Reveal yourself to me. Tamiyo. Okay. There's no Surveil land in this deck. Alright. Why did I do this? I didn't need to do this. I want this to flip so I can Prismatic End it. Yeah, go ahead. Go nuts. I'm not going to play into Daze here. Alright, that fetch was unnecessary. Pretty low-cost mistake, all in all, but it was a mistake. Prismatic Ending, and if they have Force of Will, I'll Prismatic End it again this turn. Daze, alright, fetch. I guess I'm getting Tundra. Do I want to open myself up? Well, it's going to be tapped this turn anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not casting another Prismatic Ending here. I don't think I'm getting Mountain. We're pretty far away from that being something I'm interested in. Double Plains cast more spells in my hand, but my experience playing archetypes like this tell me that double Island will be more useful going along. Okay, the Daze. That Prismatic Ending just destroyed all their lands. If they minus Tamiyo, Thoughtseize me, strip Prismatic Ending, that could be a strat, but no, they're just going for the roof. They didn't see the second Prismatic Ending when they Thoughtseized me, which is awesome because, spoilers, I have it. Their hand is 2 Underground Seas and 2 Unknowns right now. And I might be able to get a Lingus Lingen next turn. Surveilled away a land. There's an Underground Sea. Ugh. Yeah, I want to do something, but I also don't want to get cooked by Orcish Bowmaster. Right, I guess I'm fetching Volcanic Island and going for it here. I'm not going to play around Daze, because if I have 2 horses, this is better for me. Alright, yeah, I'm just going in. This gives me enough juice to overrun a Bowmaster, even if they have it, and they clearly don't. Okay. Now I'm worried about getting reanimated. Anything else we can deal with. And we did it! Alright, they just scooped it up to the aggressive Lingus. This matchup was actually awesome. Classic Legacy cards. It's weird to call them classic, but with the Modern Horizon sets, they move so fast. But Narset and Prismatic Ending, both doing insane work in this matchup, both of which are cards that have been pushed out of the metagame by just the speed of the combo decks. Those cards are both really bad against combo, but they're really good against decks like this one, and they're both really good against Tamiyo. Those are 2 of the best weapons you could possibly imagine versus the card Tamiyo, attacking it in 2 completely different ways. And this deck does play both if we are battling against Tamiyo decks. That was nice. On to the next one. Still don't know what I'm playing against. The BoshNRoll channel is proudly partnered with the Resleevables. In this YouTube series, hosts Patrick Sullivan and Patrick Chapin go set by set through Magic's past, leveraging their decades of experience as Pro Tour players and game designers to analyze the good, the bad, and the ugly of Magic's history. Each episode is a deep dive into the facts, mechanics, cycles, trivia, decks of the time, and historical context of the set. The hosts dig into notable cards of the era and their lasting impact today. Each set gets an award show where the hosts pick their favorite cards for categories such as Best, Worst, and Weirdest. And finally, give a letter grade for the set's overall success. Whether you want a history lesson or a nostalgia hit, The Resleevables has it at youtube.com/theresleevables. I'm on the play for round 4. My hand is extremely good at not dying on turn 1. I will keep it. I need another land before this hand does anything. And I'm actually much more comfortable with 1 land and 1 ponder than 2 lands and no ponder when I'm keeping hands with a deck like this, or a Brainstorm, or, whatever. Tamiyo, just something to move cards around. But this hand is durable enough that even if I stumble, even if I get this Volcanic Island wastelanded, I have some time to figure it out. And if I just top deck Flooded Strand, we're fine. Opponent's got 7 in hand. Tundra, it's a mirror match. Right, I'm not fighting Ponder. Tundra decks in the format right now, there are various Nadu and Breakfast things. There's Dreadnought. Of course, you are technically allowed to play control decks like Stoneblade or like the one I'm playing, though they are not very popular. Didn't shuffle Ponder. I'm jealous. Swords to Plowshare is one of the worst draws I could have, at least in this development stage. If they prove to be a Dreadnought deck, it's a card I'm going to be pretty happy I have. Alright, it's a Nadu deck. Windswept Heath after Tundra. Only one type of gamer's doing that. There's Nomad. I'm not going to fight over Nomad. That card doesn't matter unless they have a payoff, and they have 2 of them. Alright, deck. Big turn to deliver a card I care about. Nope, impossible. The 4th Aerolingus. Always there. They might think I'm show and tell. They might have to take whatever posture they would against show and tell here because they've seen Is It Mana and basically nothing else. I've got a handful of cards. Why would I keep 7 that didn't have a turn 3 play if I'm not a combo deck that can turn the corner quickly? That's a good question. You'll have to watch the video to find out. They brainstormed and passed. Jeez, deck. Alright, now I have to go to cleanup and discard probably this 4th Aerolingus, which gives up the goat here, and I'm clearly just a combo deck or a control deck that's missing land drops. More than half my deck is good draws here. I'm just saying. And if my opponent's plan is Nomad's Endcourt Beatdown, I can try to navigate that for a while. If they add something in the mid-range, like a Scythecat Cub, that sucks really hard. If they just start jamming Nadus, obviously I force it and we try to play on. If they have another Nadu, I'm in trouble. Deck, please. My family is starving. Okay. That card does anything. I'll take it. Alright, this is a multi-turn setup. The other 4th Aerolingus, I just cannot escape it. I need Force of Negation to keep me alive here, and Narset doesn't stop Nadu. If they're going for Zenith, I can fight it if they just deploy a second Nadu from hand. And if we've learned anything playing against Nadu players over the years, it's that they always have 2. Literally never don't have 2 Nadus. Yeah, go ahead, tap 3 mana. I know. Oh, tap 4, that's better. That one I can actually play against. Pitching one of the Narsets here. Hedge Maze. Okay, so now I shove Narset. I clear the 4th Aerolingus off the top of my deck and clench my cheeks for a turn and try to Daze Undoing next turn. And even if that is all successful, I still have to hope they never draw a Nadu or a Zenith again. Maybe they'll forget about Narset and just jam a Brainstorm. Right, putting damage on Narset makes sense. Tapping mana. I hate this. Uro, alright. They don't get a card. They gain 3 life and they could put a land into play. But Narset has officially been worth 2 cards already. Okay, Force of Will out of my deck would be nice. Hey! You're saying there's a chance. This is also passive Graveyard Hate. It takes out the Uro. Force pitching Brainstorm. We actually needed the Force, turns out. And now I got his fresh 7 cards, but they get 2 cards, and I did not draw a Force if the 2 cards they have are Nadu or Zenith for Nadu. Great. Yep. Awesome. We love Magic. This game is great. And that is the weakness of what this deck's doing. If you're not ahead or the board clear, it doesn't matter. They get to flip at least 12 cards here. Probably more. There's Tamiyo and Nomad in hand, so they can just keep flipping forever. They can clear my Narset with combat. Alright, I've lost. Great. Sometimes you try so hard and you get so far, and in the end it doesn't really matter. Containment Priest, Grafdigger's Cage, Wrath of the Skies, some number of Red Elemental Blast. We've seen Teferi and Nadu at minimum. Force of Negation, terrible. 4th Aerolingus, pretty bad. I have to win the game somehow, but yeah, there should only be one of these in the list. Officially consider that feedback. Back to basics, you could get them, but also they're a deck with Blighted Halflings and stuff, so there's no guarantee that's going to work. I think you should treat this like a creature deck. Also that same game, you know, the common theme, if I just have a plains ever, literally ever, Prismatic Ending and plow those two Nomads on my way to set up the loop, and then it doesn't matter if they top deck Nadu. I think this might be too many Pyroblasts. Do I need a 4th Aerolingus at all? I guess is a question. My ways to win a game, like actually deal 20 if they don't just scoop to a lock, is Triumph of St. Catherine and 2 Hull Breachers. If I board out this last Lingus. And Wrath of the Skies kills my own Grafdigger's Cage. Cage matters later. I am cutting Force Negations though, so I need to respect Zenith somehow. I think I need my Force of Wills. They're probably going to board in a Cavern of Souls, but I need to fight over my lock pieces and stuff too. I have to combo them out because they're trying to do the same to me. It might be a Lorien revealed and I don't bring in Cage, or I don't bring in Priest, or I go 1 Red Blast. All right, I'll try this. Most of their deck is green. There's just a couple really important cards that are blue. Okay, keep. A Plains. And I have the whole combo with protection. I have the Teferi that can put the shields up. I just need a land to start unlocking the pieces here. Tamiyo. Delighted Halfling. There's that guy. We knew it was there. Land would be great. Swords of Plowshare is always welcome, though. Just clearing that immediately. Don't want to play that game at all. Okay. Can I find land? The classic question. Can I get my mana under me with my deck that is built to have good mana? Shuffled their Ponder. That's exciting. I do have another land, though. I also have another land. Good news, folks. I am just going to jam Teferi here. And there is no back to basics or wastelands to play around in this matchup from anyone. Force of Will, that is Teferi's job. Oh, they boarded in a Hydroblast after just seeing me discard 4th Aerolingus. I like that. That means they are at least slightly indexed on something that doesn't really matter. I kept a card on top. You got your Teferi? Yes, you do. Bouncing Tamiyo's fine. Force of Will, thanks for showing up. I'm just swinging for the fences now. This is all we can do. They can just win right now if they go Nomad Nadu. All right, not with that tap land, they can't. Do I play around Endurance? I would rather attack Teferi and then do what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to try to screw them. Also, just card Swords to Plowshare is pretty big here. Okay, sweet. Nice. Took turns, cheese comboing each other. They might adjust their sideboard if they thought Hydroblast was good. That might not be true anymore. That Teferi felt really bad. I do want to, I think, slide another Reb in. Oh, I have Containment Priest that can win the game now. Yeah, I don't think I want 4th Aerolingus at all in this matchup. Okay, there it is. You don't need much to win the game if you spin your opponent out of cards and get a fresh 7, but you do need something. And as long as I have literally something, I'm okay. All right, I love Swords to Plowshares. Wrath of the Skies could be a nice follow-up to that. Zenith. All right, this thing dies to Wrath of the Skies, but that's a few turns away. Yeah, I think I'm going to spend this turn plowing. If they get ahead of my development, that's a way that this could fall apart for me. Brainstorm. Fetching down to 19. Nomad's in play. That means I got a problem to solve here. I was going to think about playing Mystic Sanctuary and passing, but now that they've invested in like a real thing I have to deal with, I do want this, but it's too late if I'm dead. These are basically exactly the cards I would want. I am going to shuffle, though. Ended up with the Flooded Strand anyway. They're going to combat first, which they have done the whole game. I'm not reading anything into this. Like match 1, they were going to combat before casting Yadu every turn. All right, that's awesome. This means I could at least present a Wrath of the Skies to clear the Nomad. Even if they counter it, I'm at least doing something here. Kind of hope they just play out like another Nomad and a Mana Dork. That would be awesome. Didn't shuffle Ponder. Another Nomad. They've missed a land. Oh, wow. I love when Force of Will shows up when I want it. Volcanic Island. Get out here. Nomads. Smell you never. A 2-for-1 sweeping up 2 combo pieces is awesome. Force pitching Nadu. All right, I'm forcing back, obviously, but am I pitching one of the cantrips or one of the payoffs? Jason doing is not good till I find one of the hits, which the cantrips I'll do. I think I am going to force pitching Brainstorm here. and leave my combo button readily available. So that was a 3-for-4 exchange that also wiped out 3 combo pieces. They pitched Nadu from hand and 2 Nomads died. They always have 2 Nadus. Those are the rules. But they're out of Nomads. Ponder. I'm looking for a lock piece. Oh my god. I don't have double blue to play this card. That's so annoying. Alright, well, I'll take the Narset and I guess play Mystic Sanctuary tapped. Okay, there is a big window here for them to find a piece and beat me to death with it. Zenith for 1. If this could get like Sylvan Safekeeper, yeah, that's like some Nadu action. Probably less than they wanted, but they could start doing some stuff. Oh wow. They're pushing. They flipped a Zenith. Okay, flipped a Veil. This is not that good. That was a really aggressive push. I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't play a lot of Nadu. I don't know. Like, they could sack all their lands here. Right, there's the Zenith for 1. Delighted Halfling. That means I have to do this all at once. And they won't have a hand anyway. It won't even be good when I do it. Like, now do I use Narset? I guess if I had stacked my Ponder the other way, I could get land, fetch this turn, play Mystic Sanctuary, put Wrath of the Skies on top. Maybe I messed that up. There's a Wrath of the Skies and a Supreme Verdict in my deck that are both really good right now. The Days Undoing isn't even that special. Like, I play Narset. Next turn, like, I can Narset right now, try to see some cards, find an answer to this situation, which is one of my sweepers and basically nothing else. Or next turn, I can Narset Days Undoing. I have 7 fresh cards. They have 1 fresh card. And Narset dies in combat anyway. Alright, I think I'm gonna Narset now. Tundra, Narset, use her. Force of Will in my hand, not what I wanted. And it's really easy for them to clear Narset. Just attack it with Nadu. If they hadn't gotten the Halfling as well, I probably would have just left Narset and play on 5 and passed. They can Caracas their Nadu and get some value here. Brainstorm. We need to find the goods. None of these are the goods. These are actually the bads. I might have to just Days Undoing to get a new hand. Oh, this hurts. All right, if I put back Force Volk, or I still have a land drop. All right, I'm putting back the Forces because they have Veil of Summer anyway. Play Plains, Plow Nadu. Giving them a fresh 7 sucks, and this flips 2 cards for them. However, God, there's Force of Will in their hand. If I could put Nadu in their hand and Days Undoing it away, that's something that is available to me. This Caracas is really messing me up too. A Veil of Summer, which does not... Oh, I cast Brainstorm, so that does actually draw a card. Alright. It doesn't stop Plow from happening, though. Okay, they decided to sack Savannah rather than use Narset to pick this up, which is honestly pretty smart, because if I Days Undoing now, they just draw 7 and there's probably a Nomad in there. But what can I do? Like, my top cards are bad and I have no clear. Force pitching Brainstorm. Okay, so they have Green Sun Zenith in hand, no green mana. Caracas is there to do stuff, and I'm dead in 2 hits, and I know my top of my deck doesn't work. Oof. Alright, GG's. Yeah, I think I messed up the turn where I didn't set up Mystic Sanctuary. Just that Ponder, putting the pieces back in the wrong order that were otherwise going to be exactly the same. Like, I could have just had access to a Wrath of the Skies and simply did not instead. Okay, on to the next round. We're a few rounds into the video. If you're still here and having fun, remember to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to play what I'm playing, use code BOSH for 5% off your order at toamagic.com. Eternal lives here. I'm on the play in the final round. Positive record, locked, bread and butter 4-1 on the line. I'll keep. Island Ponder keep, right? We have the perfect 3 basic lands, including the mountain, that I don't like. We'll see if it helps me cast any spells. Island Ponder. Hull Breacher, Ponder, Brainstorm. This is a lot of juice here. I'm going to hide the Hull Breacher down a little bit, but I do like these cards. Plenty of blue cards for Force of Will to find traction. Hopefully we're in a matchup where Teferi matters. Well, there's Nomad. I'm not going to fight the Nomad. Ponder, 2 Hull Breachers, and a Scalding Tarn. I don't think I need 3 Hull Breacher or 2 Hull Breachers in a game. The way that I hope this game plays out here is next turn I play Teferi, bounce the Nomad, and then the turn after that we have Teferi bubble up for whatever we want to do. Cephalid Illusionist, well, I obviously have to counter that. Worst pitching Brainstorm. Okay, so this is the Illusionist build. The last round was mid-range Zenith, and it seems we're just dead. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at this list and then stop playing Magic. We have done a pretty good job dodging combo decks so far this league. A lot of opponents want to play fair, but here we are. Force backup on a turn 2 win. If my Ponder had come up with a Prismatic Ending or Swords to Plowshares, which is what I was looking for when I cast it, we would have been okay there. If I knew this was the matchup, I would have shuffled the Ponder. Maybe I'm supposed to, just off of raw meta share, assume that this is the matchup. However, just having that grindy slugfest versus Nadu Zenith fresh in my brain, I may have made a mistake. All right, their deck's empty. Just all the normal stuff you'd expect here. Thassa's Oracle, Dread Return. They found the line. Okay. Red Blast come in. Back to Basics comes out. Oh, as we're at the end of the league here, I will put out there that Back to Basics was good in one of the 5 matches we played, so like 20% conversion rate. That sounds like a card that should be in your sideboard. I like Containment Priest. Surgicals and Cages, like Nadu Zenith, or Nadu Breakfast can pivot into just like creature-centric Nadu game plan, and having a ton of graveyard hate is not that useful against them. They are an Urza's Saga strategy. Consign to Memory can hit Oracle out of hand, which is one of their pivots. Like they, rather than milling their deck and winning through the graveyard, they draw their deck with Nadu, then cast Thassa's Oracle. I don't think I have enough to cut to make room for all of this stuff. Force Negation and Back to Basics are the easy ones. I think Teferi's really good against them. I want to be focusing on comboing them out. Yeah, in 4th Aerolingus once again. Not doing what I want. I have Triumph and Containment Priest that can win games, and Hull Breacher if I get them frozen out. Sad the deck never came up, but we didn't play against any artifact decks, and it didn't play against any control decks, which are the 2 places you'd want this. I like all the removal. I might even be able to sneak 1 Force of Will out of the deck, because I have all this other better interaction now for the same stuff. Do I even want Consign to Memory? I feel like having 1 to keep my opponent honest makes sense. And Lorien Revealed versus Force of Will are the last decision I'm making here. I think I'm going to cut Lorien, because with a combo of my own, Force of Will still has value, even if I don't like it versus their plan. Keep. Okay, cast Ponder. I like the Red Blast, I like the Ponder. Wrath of the Skies is a long way off, and there's no plateau in the deck, which means I have to pick between Red Blast or Wrath of the Skies. I'm not reasonably casting both. I'm glad I picked Red Blast. Okay, Ponder. Prismatic Vista. I like that. I will lock up land number 3, and then fetch for Volcanic Island and blast this Tamiyo before it draws a single card. Hedge Maze tapped on turn 2. That's cool. Dump to Ponder. There's a Nomad. I'm going to play Narset here. Try to dig. Found a Plow. I'm going to put that in my hand, which should force the issue on them making a move this turn. I have Force. If they have Force backup, obviously I lose, but I've done what I can here. A couple years ago, when Cephalid Breakfast was one of the top decks of the format, back when I won the Star City 10K, there were a lot more control decks like this one in the format, and this deck feasts on those. Pitch a Hull Breacher to force this. Alright, well, they're going to draw at least 4 cards, or flip at least 4 cards. I wish they were drawing them. That I can actually beat. Land. Land. Cool. Brainstorm. Alright, Narset did something. Daze. They can attack Narset for 1. Oh, they didn't attack Narset. That gives me a whole extra Narset activation. That's big. I can Plow Nadu. I think I'm more worried about Nadu than I am about Nomad, and they can flip a jillion cards in response, of course. All right, I'm going to activate Narset. If I can find some counter spells to back this up, that's nice. Well, that puts Days Undoing in my hand. My opponent knows what I'm about now. I obviously can't just shove that because they have Days in their hand. Ponder. Okay, I found a Force of Will to help me out here. And I'll plow Nadu. Thassa's Oracle flipped into their hand. They get a bunch more flips here. They can flip at least 3 more cards. If there's a Dried Arbor in the deck, that's another 2. But they would have done that on their turn, I think, if they had it. Blooded Strand. 1 more flip. Force of Will. Well, we know they have blue cards to pitch. Please cast Brainstorm. Please forget. All right. Well, not a resolved, which is scary. I can't afford to play this this Tamiyo because we know they have Days in hand. Okay, so this is draw 1, put 2 back, which, you know, even if you're setting up a combo, doesn't seem very good. Okay, so Narset's body count here has taken out 2 Brainstorms. We might still lose this game anyway, but Narset was in the game. Okay, this Nomad remembered to attack this time, and now there's Saga Gaming with Force and Days in hand. Okay, does Tamiyo actually matter? I'm gonna Brainstorm. Yeah, these are the cards I want. However, I only have 1 white mana. I guess I'll put back Wrath and Verdict and cast this Tamiyo. I gotta find my way into white mana somehow. I can't afford to force that. And now the constructs kick in. This is 5 damage on board right now. Next turn, 8. I guess my out here is hoping that, well, that card is... I can't beat that card. I can't beat any of these cards. Knowing they still have Force backup. All right, they got me. I'm Brainstorm locked. I can't cast my spells. What I needed there was for Hull Breacher to snag a Ponder or something and unlock a second white, but Teferi, that's not possible. If I fight over Teferi, I have to pitch Days Undoing. We know they have a handful of blanks with Force of Will. All right. Well, what we learned in this league is that Nadu is really good against traditional removal. Okay, pros and cons, feedback, because that's what was asked for. Narset and Hull Breacher felt awesome in this metagame. We had so many fights over Tamiyo where you just have, if your deck's doing what you want to do anyway, you passively shut down Tamiyo, which is great because so much of the format is about jockeying over Tamiyo's ultimate right now. The Days Undoing had a few games where we just stole it. The Back to Basics came up. We played against one of the matchups where it's actually really good. Tamiyo's just great. If you're doing anything in the blue, like kind of off meta space, just put 3 or 4 Tamiyos in your deck and you immediately have some legitimacy. This is like the floor on how you build blue decks in Legacy right now. Pro, when the mana was under you, it's very solid. Like in the games where you do just develop island planes in the early turns, it feels like it's not worrying about Wasteland in this metagame is huge because the format is defined by Reanimator, a Wasteland deck, Red Stompy, a Blood Moon deck, Dimir Tempo, a Wasteland deck, Is It Corey Steelcutter, a Wasteland deck, Eldrazi, a Wasteland deck, etc., etc. Like just basic lands are nearly indestructible in Legacy, and if you can get them under you, that's great. Which dovetails into one of the cons, which is the mana was not always under me. I think this Mystic Sanctuary is a little greedy. I played this tapped in the league more than once. There was one game where it's on me. If I had sequenced correctly, the Mystic Sanctuary might have been the card to save me. But I think it's more often that you'd rather just have even another Prismatic Vista, just one more access to that first basic plane so you can play the game is a really big deal. I think Back to Basics belongs in the sideboard. That game versus whatever that was, Dimir, Reanimator or Tempo, we'll never know, where there were multiple turns in a row where I could resolve Back to Basics, or at least cast Back to Basics while they were completely tapped out with exclusively non-basic lands, and it still was not the correct play. That's why I don't like this card that much. That game in particular might be a criticism of Tamiyo more than it's a criticism of Back to Basics, because everything feels so hopeless when Tamiyo is about to go ultimate, but Tamiyo's in the format, so you have to build around Tamiyo. And Back to Basics, does not feel good there. 2 is too many Fourth Aerlingus. This was in my opening hand, or just stuck in my hand in, I feel like 60 to 75% of the games that we played here. Fourth Aerlingus was either in my opening keep or drawn quickly thereafter, and it was good one of those times. I would rather this be something else. Like, give me another Lorien Revealed, give me the 4th Tamiyo, give me another fetch land that can access planes, put like one Arid Mesa in the deck. Any one of those things, I think, stabilizes the early game better than the second, 4th Aerlingus, and the early game is the problem with these decks. Whatever you're doing, the late game should be under your control. Why are we registering 6 Planeswalkers if the late game is not under control? So why are we looking for more late game? The Triumph didn't come up. There was one time where casting Back to Basics was better than setting up Triumph, though it wasn't a matchup where Triumph would have been good if I didn't happen to be holding Back to Basics there. There was one time where it was in my hand and I couldn't use it. Otherwise, it was largely invisible this league, though knowing it's in there was comforting a few times, where it's like, if I want to shave on 4th Aerlingus, I might have even been doing that backwards, to be honest. Like, maybe you're supposed to cut the Triumph before you cut a 4th, because if you have one of these cards to win the game with, I'd trust 4th Aerlingus to do it better. So I think that was probably wrong. If you're looking for some sort of Barogoyf analog in blue-white, you can put your Triumphs in the sideboard for the matchups they're for. So consolidating all these thoughts, I really like what the deck is about. I actually think Teferi, Narset, Hullbreacher, Days Undoing is a pretty sweet core right now. White removal. It's not at the center of the format right now. Like, Nadu plays some plows, but for the most part, Fatal Push and Broadside Bombardier are the removal paper playing around. Having these, just picking off Murktides and Tamiyo'S with ease was great. I do like all that. I would... Every single flex slot right now that is flexed towards something powerful or endgamey, I would flex the other way towards something stable and early gamey. That's Back to Basics. That's the number and distribution of win cons between the 2 Force and the 1 Triumph. You could probably play 1 slot instead of 3, 2 if you're really nervous. But Hullbreacher will win the game if your opponent can't play. I'd probably play 1, no Back to Basics, put that in the sideboard. If you want to play Triumph, put that in the sideboard as well. Mystic Sanctuary, I would turn into a fetch land. Anytime I'm building a deck, when we establish the core and then we establish the mana to cast the core, the next question is, what do I do with my flex slots? And I always build to the floor rather than the ceiling. Like, make your bad draws better. Don't make your good draws better, because your good draws should win anyway, or else what is the point of your deck? And the good draws with this deck will win anyway. That's my advice, Jealous Angel. I hope it's useful in your development of this deck. Thanks for sharing it. It was a lot of fun. I love getting to play basic, heavy, blue-white control decks. Everyone, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Patreon. I'll see you next time.